If you've struggled to consistently 36-star the Spiral Abyss, I have some tips for you that might help you do it with the roster of characters you already have, or at least get you closer to it. While the Abyss may technically be mechanically simple, it is still a DPS check. You are fighting a timer and you need to have the damage to beat it. And the key to that damage in Genshin is just as much about resource management as it is about what characters you have. We've all seen those account reviews of whales that can hardly beat the early floors of the Spiral Abyss despite having C6 5-star units and 5-star weapons for them. While the mechanical skill will still play a huge part in this, the biggest problem that I often see is that they're squandering the limited resources they have in the worst ways possible. So let's get into what you can actually do to fix that. Leveling characters to 90, starting with a spicy one because so many people want to do this, and they do this, and they do it to multiple characters on their account. To be blunt, it's a waste. Compared to the resources it takes to get there, it's just not worth it. This is a luxury that you only do when you have an absolute excess of resources and basically nothing else to do with them. But since more is a huge factor in this, that's not likely going to happen for a lot of players. You can find every character's base stats and what they gain from leveling from multiple sites, but to illustrate a point, we're going to take Xiao for an example. He's the highest base attack character in the game. He gets 349 attack at level 90, which is an increase of only 24 from level 80 out of 90. After percent attack does its thing, this is at best going to net you about 50 to 70 attack. Which, the amount of resources it took you to get there, that's really sad. You're spending 172 Heroes Wits and 684k more to get a very negligible amount of damage increase. That's 750 resin worth of materials. And that's only if you get the max amount of EXP books from every experienced ley line you do. Because if you are someone who wants a 90 every character you have, you are likely going to be spending resin on experienced ley lines because events just don't give us enough, nor does the battle pass. The reason we do level characters up to 80 out of 90 is not because of what the levels themselves offer. That's because the last ascension is given to us at 80 out of 90. And it also allows to take our talents to level 10, which is a huge source of damage unlike leveling. If you have an excess amount of more in EXP books with a bunch of 80 out of 90 characters, then you can start considering taking characters beyond 80, and if you do, attack scaling characters should be among the lowest priority. HP scalers, defense scalers, and especially reaction-based characters like the Animo characters of the Swirl will receive a far greater benefit from this boost. As you can see from this chart, Swirl's base damage will be increased by more than 30% from those 10 levels alone, and Overload and Electrocharge are basically the same. And yes, character level compared to the monster level does affect damage, but the amount is so small that it is hardly a consideration, especially at the later levels. Level your weapons to 90. Unlike characters, this is actually worth it. If you have a level 90 character with a sub 90 weapon, stop it. Stop it right now. Enhancement ore is free. You can farm that shit daily. I'm not mad, I'm just disappointed. An important one for newer players, or perhaps just more casual players, but if your artifacts aren't all level 20, it's important to level them more evenly, since much like with character leveling, they get far more expensive as the levels go on, and they have a bulk of their costs sitting in those last 4 levels of the artifact. The resources it takes you to take an artifact from 16 to 20 could be instead used to take multiple other artifacts up to 16 instead, which will gain you much more power. Of course, you should still prioritize hats and goblets, as their main stats are far more important to your character's strength than other artifacts. Prioritizing talents properly. One of the most important things you should be doing in general. We've all done talent domains. We know they're stingy as hell, and it takes a truckload of resin to max out just a single talent. So when you're spending more on talent books to level a talent, you better make sure it's meaningfully contributing to your team. This is way more important if you are low on weekly boss materials for the characters, which will be the case for newer players or any character who comes out with a new boss, like when we just got Signora. Let's take Ganyu for example. If you're playing Melt Ganyu, Ganyu's charge attacks are going to be doing almost 100% of your team's damage, and almost all of that damage will be coming from her attack alone. So under no circumstances should you be in a situation where your attack is the same level as your skill if your attack could be a higher level with the resources your skill used to get there. A more nuanced example is the Child Xiangling Bennett reverse vape comp. Child is the main field character, but Xiangling is the actual main damage dealer of this team. She is doing the bulk of the damage. So many people may incorrectly funnel resources into Child instead of Xiangling's Pyronado. well. And at the same time, you should not be concerning yourself with getting Pyronator to 10 from level 9 if your child's skill is sitting over there at level 4. It's all a balancing act and will vary wildly depending on the team comp you're using, but you can find talent priorities online for every character and that will guide you in the right direction. Picking the right characters to invest in and narrowing your focus on those characters. If your main goal is to clear the Spiral Abyss, you need to pick supports to focus on and at least 2 to 3 main DPS. You only need backup DPS for Spiral Abyss floors that may not be well suited for certain characters, like in the case of you have a Diluc, and maybe for whatever reason both floors involve a large amount of Pyro Slimes. Diluc may not be well suited for that floor. All in all, the less characters you invest in, the stronger those ones you do will become. Obviously, just a simple concept, but one that's broken quite commonly by people leveling all of their characters evenly without a strong focus or any focus whatsoever. A free-to-play account with a narrow focus can perform just as well, if not better, than a whale account that has spread their resources out due to owning many or all the characters. I know this firsthand because I have 2 accounts. One is a whale account, my main account, and the other is a free-to-play, and they both full clear the Spiral Abyss without a huge difference in their clear times. Spending resin in the right places. Let's say you have a team: Diluc, Bennett, Xingqiu, and Sucrose. Your Diluc is 20,000 resin deep into the Crimson Witch domain, and he's decked out. You don't see upgrades for him very often, if ever, but your Xingqiu is sitting over there with garbage for artifacts and a level 6 burst in skill. There is a term called triage, where in the case of mass medical emergency, you treat the most at-risk patients first and leave low-risk patients to wait for treatment because they are not in danger. You continuing to spend resin on that domain is like sitting there and kissing Diluc's paper cut that you just bandaged up while Xingqiu is sitting in the background on fire and a knife sticking out of his stomach. It's perfectly understandable to want to give your main DPS all the love because they're the numbers you notice the most and you're spending all your time on field with them. But when you have capable supports like Xingqiu or Xiangling or Beidou or any other number of good supports, you need to prioritize them too in accordance to how much they're actually contributing to your team. This is another thing that will vary heavily based on your team comps, but by you running the team comp, you should have a good feel of how much damage that character is contributing and what should be important to level for them. Use the Mystic offering at the alchemy table. You may be tempted to use junk 5-star artifacts as EXP because they give a lot and you get a fair amount of them. But I promise it's more worth it to use them for this table since you can farm artifact EXP for free over time. Combine that with the help of blues and purples from the domains itself, you'll be fine. It may take some patience, but it is worth it in the long run. Pretty much everyone can make use of the Noblesse Oblige set, so there's almost always some benefit to be had by using this feature to farm this set instead of running the domain. It's basically just free resin, just be patient. Leave your characters partially unleveled. It's a small thing, but when you max a character's current level, you're preventing them from earning EXP from any monster kills you get. No matter how small the gains may be from this, it is still free EXP. You're not gaining anything meaningful by finishing that one last level off, but by leaving your character at level 69, nice! You're still earning EXP, which has some value. Another small thing, but when leveling a character, don't just cram purple books down their throat until they max out. When you get to that last level, you're likely going to waste a large chunk of the book's EXP, and unlike Enhancement Ore, you don't get a refund for this lost EXP. So max it out, go back 1 book, and then use lower books on that last little bit to limit waste. Efficiency matters. We're starving for resources out here as it is. Don't be wasteful. And in that spirit, artifacts. When you're in the home stretch, don't auto-add mass chunks of artifacts that could go to waste if you get a ×2 or ×5 multiplier. Start adding just maybe a couple at a time, maybe 1 at a time if you have to. Sometimes you'll save some artifact EXP by doing this, and it's not a time-consuming thing to do anyway. I know these last 3 tips were small, and they may not add up to much, but as I said, Genshin is all about resource management, especially if you don't buy the Battle Pass. Every little bit counts, and you will get just a little bit closer to a full clear of the Spiral Abyss if you save as much as possible. I hope you found some of this information helpful, or maybe it just changed your philosophy on how you approach character building, and that gets you a little bit closer to your goals. If you have questions about team comps or anything like that, or where to go to find good information, you should join my Discord. I'm active in it, and I'm always happy to offer what help I can offer. And there might be some others who can help you too. I've got a Patreon if you want to support me directly, and links to both of those are in the description below. I wish you luck with clearing the Spiral Abyss in the future, and thank you for watching. Bye-bye.
Freeze to the core!